Karen calls 911 on a black man parking his yacht. What happened next is shocking. The marina buzzed under the Saturday sunset, a wild splash of red burning across the sky as the sun sank fast into the sea, dragging orange and pink streaks with it. Waves slammed the old pilings, a loud thump cutting through the sharp whistle of the wind. Gulls screeched overhead, diving fast like something big was about to drop. Along the pier, rusted fishing boats jostled with patched sailboats, but at the far end a glossy white yacht sat tied up, sticking out like a rock star in a dive bar. About 25 feet long, it gleamed fresh from the factory. Sea Breeze, scrawled in big blue letters across its side, blazing in the last light. Andrew jumped off the yacht, boots smacking the dock with a hard thump. He wore a navy polo, sleeves shoved up high, and khaki shorts frayed at the hems. Sweat poured down his face after an afternoon fishing offshore, a few small fish in the bucket his only haul. He snatched the mooring rope off the deck, hands whipping it around the cleat, yanking it tight and knotting it fast. He stood up, swiped sweat with his arm and scanned the boat, lines taut, hull steady, everything locked in. Leaning against the railing, hands on hips, he stared out at the sea, waves flashing gold under the dusk. Heels pounded out of nowhere, a rapid clack-clack ripping through the marina's hum. Karen charged in, steps flying like she was late for a fight, blonde hair whipping loose, white blouse flapping in the breeze. Designer bag slung over her shoulder, tight jeans hugging her legs, sunglasses jammed on her head like a power move. She lived a few blocks off, always stalking the docks like the queen of the block, itching to start trouble. Today, she skidded to a stop mid-pier, eyes locked on Andrew and the sea breeze, fists balled up tight. She didn't waste a second, jabbing a finger at him, voice blasting over the waves. "Hey you," she yelled, loud enough to scatter the gulls. "What the hell you doing with that yacht?" "Don't tell me it's yours." Her face twisted, arm flailing, like she'd smashed the boat right there. Andrew spun around, hands loose, staring her down. "It's my boat, Karen," he said, voice low and steady, slicing her rant clean. He nodded at the yacht. "Just got back from fishing." She barked a laugh, shrill enough to crack glass. "Your boat?" She lunged a step forward, heels slamming the dock, nearly slipping. "Don't play me. I've been here forever. I know who's got what. That thing," she pointed again, arms shaking, "ain't yours. Guys like you don't own yachts." Her lip curled, eyes bouncing from Andrew to the boat and back, like it was too crazy to believe. Andrew didn't budge, arms crossing, pinning her with a look. "Bought it 2 years ago," he said, voice cold as steel. "Paid every dime." Karen roared, diving into her bag, yanking her phone out, fast as lightning. "Paid for it," she screeched, voice spiking high. "Cut the bullshit. Guys like you don't own yachts. This ain't your spot." She punched 911, phone jammed to her ear, yelling into it. "Hello, 911? Some dude's stealing a yacht at the marina right now. He's tying it up like it's his. I know it's not. Get here fast." Before she could drop the phone, a rogue gust ripped through the pier, snatching the lid off a bait bucket nearby, slamming it down with a bang. A swarm of small fish exploded out, flying everywhere. Some splashed into the water, others smacked the dock, a few hitting Karen's legs. She yelped, jumping back, heels skidding on the wet wood, phone flailing as she almost dropped it. "What the hell's this?" she screamed, eyes wild, pointing at Andrew. "See? He's wrecking the place." Andrew stepped back, gripping the railing, eyeing the fish strewn across the dock. "That's my catch," he said, voice still even. Wind knocked the bucket. Karen ignored him, snatching a squirming fish off the floor, hurling it at him. It veered wide, smacking the cleat, bouncing back to slap her square in the face. She shrieked, swiping at her cheek, smearing fish slime. "You threw that at me?" she howled, even though she'd done it herself. Her phone buzzed 911, asking for details. But she didn't answer, stomping her foot, face red as a beet. "Wait till they get here, Don." Before she finished, another crash rang out. The bucket lid flipped again, smashing her shin. She stumbled, crashing butt first onto the dock, hands landing in slimy fish guts, one heel flying off into the water. She screamed, flailing, just as sirens blared loud from the marina entrance, red and blue lights flashing wild. Andrew stood there, arms crossed, watching her flop in the mess. as cop boots thundered closer down the pier. Sirens screamed across the marina, drowning out the waves and the gulls overhead. Red and blue lights flashed wild from the patrol car parked at the entrance, turning the water into an outdoor disco show. Karen sat sprawled on the fish-slicked dock, her white blouse smeared with slime, one heel lost to the chaos. She swiped at her face, hands dripping goo, eyes blazing red as she glared at Andrew like she'd rip him apart. "You wait," she snarled, snatching her remaining heel and chucking it at him. The shoe sailed wide, smacking the yacht's railing, splashing into the water with a faint plop amid the madness. Andrew leaned against the railing, arms crossed, watching her with zero shake. He shook his head, stepping over the scattered fish to grab the tipped-over bait bucket. "Cops are here," he said, voice flat, ignoring her wild throw. He lifted the bucket, starting to scoop up the mess, when heavy boots thumped down the pier. 2 cops rolled up, a tall guy in a dark blue uniform, radio in hand, and a short woman with glasses, clutching a notepad. The big guy stepped forward, voice booming over the dock. "Who called 911? What's going on?" His eyes flicked from Karen, flopped on the floor, to Andrew by the yacht, sharp and cool. Karen scrambled up, hands slipping on the wet wood, nearly toppling again. "I called," she yelled, stabbing a finger at Andrew. "This guy's stealing a yacht." "He's tying it up like it's his, but I know it's not. Check him out." She staggered upright, wiping fish slime off her hair, trying to look serious despite the wreck she'd become. The short cop squinted, scanning Karen head to toe, then turned to Andrew. Can we see some ID and papers?" she asked, voice soft but firm, flipping her notepad open. The big guy planted himself between Karen and Andrew, hand hovering near his belt, eyes darting between them. Andrew nodded, climbing onto the yacht's deck, popping open a compartment by the helm. He pulled out a stack of papers, handing them over. "Here's the registration," he said, calm as ever. "Name's Andrew Coleman. This boat's mine." He pointed at the sea breeze, standing still as the shore cop flipped through, inspecting every line. Karen smirked, hands on hips, voice dripping venom. "Fake papers! Don't buy it. Check 'em good." She lurched forward, reaching to snatch the stack, but the big cop threw up a hand, voice rumbling. "Cool it, lady. Let us handle this." The short cop finished, nodding at her partner. "Papers check out. Registered to Coleman, no signs of forgery." She looked up at Karen. "Nothing off here." Karen's eyes bulged, face turning beet red. "Check out. No way," she charged, flailing at the big cop, nearly smacking his face. "He can't own that. Look at him. It's stolen, I'm telling you." She stomped, shaking the dock, just as a nearby boat snapped loose, drifting fast and slamming the pier. Water sprayed up, soaking Karen head to toe, drenching her in a cold wave. She shrieked, swiping water off her face, hair plastered to her skull. "See? He's wrecking this place." She jabbed at Andrew, though the loose boat wasn't his fault. The big cop sighed, stepping in as she lunged again. "Enough," he snapped, voice short. "Lady, stay put." Andrew stood on the deck, hands braced on the railing, watching the chaos below without a word. The short cop turned to him. "You pressing anything?" she asked, pen hovering. He shook his head. "Nah. Just want to tie up and head home." But Karen wasn't done. She yanked free from the big cop, bolting to a water barrel nearby, hoisting it up to splash Andrew. "You're not getting off," she screamed, but her grip slipped, dumping the whole load back on herself, icy water soaking her blouse. She howled, the short cop shaking her head, scribbling in her pad, while the big guy hauled Karen back. "You're getting a fine for disturbing the peace," he said, voice flat. "This is a warning, next time's not so easy." Karen panted, hair dripping, pointing a shaky finger at Andrew. "This ain't over," she hissed, eyes burning. But the big cop gripped her shoulder, shoving her toward the pier's exit. "Head out," he said, patience gone. The cops turned back to their car, leaving Karen standing there, drenched, one shoe gone, glaring at Andrew from afar. He stepped off the yacht, scooping up the last stray fish, tossing them in the bucket, then climbed back to check the ropes. He didn't glance her way, but out of the corner of his eye he caught her slinking toward the entrance, hand digging into her bag, pulling out a tiny pen with a smirk before ducking behind a pile of nets. Minutes later, as Andrew sank into the helm chair to catch his breath, a faint scritch sounded from the yacht's stern. He bolted up, rushing over, spotting a black ink streak smeared across the Sea Breeze's hull, like someone had just tagged it. He snapped his head up, scanning for Karen, but she'd vanished. A gust rocked the boat and a loud horn blared. A delivery truck screeched into the marina entrance, blocking the way out, turning the dock into a full-on mess. The marina shook under the fading glow of the cop car's lights, sirens trailing off, leaving behind the stink of fish and salt water. Karen stood alone at the pier's entrance, her white blouse soaked and clinging, hair plastered like she'd been through a spin cycle, one bare foot from her lost heel. She panted, hands on hips, glaring at Andrew from afar, eyes burning hot enough to torch the sea breeze. Andrew sat in the helm chair, checking the mooring lines again, ignoring her like the chaos was just a blip. The black ink streak smeared across the yacht's hull peeked out in the dusk, the first mark of her payback he hadn't cleaned yet. Karen smirked, fishing the tiny pen from her bag, the one she'd used to tag the boat. She twirled it in her fingers, eyes scanning the dock like a hawk on the hunt. Then, without a word, she spun around, stomping toward the pile of nets near the exit, vanishing behind it in seconds. But barely a minute later, an engine roared. The delivery truck from before lurched backward into the marina, blocking the way, tires grinding the wood with a skrrr. The driver jumped out, yelling at someone behind him. "Who left this damn crate in the way?" He pointed at a big wooden box rolling loose at the entrance, something that definitely wasn't there before Karen showed up. Andrew caught the noise, standing from his seat, stepping to the yacht's edge to look down. He frowned at the truck clogging the path, then glanced back at the ink on his boat, rubbing his chin like he was piecing it together. Before he could move, a loud crash exploded from the stern. An empty glass bottle dropped from nowhere, shattering across the deck, shards flying wild. He whipped around, bolting to the mess, spotting an orange puddle leaking from the wreckage, the sharp sting of gasoline hitting his nose. "What the hell?" he muttered, eyes darting across the pier, but no one was there except a few fishermen gawking from their spots. Seconds later, a faint pop hissed from under the water by the yacht. A red flare shot up, bursting bang in the sky, lighting the marina blood red. Fishermen nearby yelled, pointing at the boat. "Hey, what's going on over there?" An old guy dropped his rod, hobbling to the edge while Andrew raced to the stern, eyes wide. He bent down, spotting a small string of firecrackers tied to the mooring line, a red ember sizzling up toward the next one. "What's this?" he shouted, yanking the string free, hurling it into the water before it spread. The firecrackers sank, fizzing out in bubbles, but right then, a boom rocked the pier. The truck reversed hard, slamming into the net pile, ripping it open and tangling the ropes in its wheels. The driver cursed, leaping out of the cab, waving his arms. "Who pulled this stunt?" he bellowed, but no one answered, just the rip-rip of tearing nets as the truck dragged them along. Andrew stood on the deck, eyeing the fizzled firecrackers, then the truck, then the ink streak. He stepped off the yacht, snagging a loose net scrap from the dock, squinting at it. From the shadows, Karen slipped out from behind a rainwater barrel 10 yards off, clutching a small lighter, smirking wide. She ducked back, but not fast enough. An old fisherman caught her, pointing her way, yelling at Andrew. "Hey man, that chick was just here," holding something lit. Andrew spun, sprinting toward the barrel, but before he reached it, another pop cracked off, this time from the bow. A green flare blasted up, exploding bang overhead, bathing the marina in neon light. He skidded to a stop, racing back to the yacht, spotting another firecracker string tied to the railing, its red glow inches from the last fuse. He lunged, ripping it loose and chucking it overboard, but right then, a loud whoosh erupted. A water pipe near the dock burst open, spraying hard, blasting him full in the chest, soaking him head to toe. "Watch out!" a fisherman shouted. Too late. Water knocked Andrew flat on the deck, his elbow cracking the railing. He scrambled up, hair dripping, scanning wild. The pipe's valve had been cranked wide, water jetting everywhere. From the sidelines, Karen stepped out from the barrel, waving a wrench she'd used to twist it open, smirking. "Think you're off the hook?" she yelled, voice cutting through the spray. But before she could gloat, a shrill screech tore the air. The truck lurched back again, wheels snagged tight in the nets, swerving into a dock lamppost. The post crashed, bam, onto the wood, wires snapping free, sparking zazz, zazz across the pier. Fishermen bolted, shouting, "Fire, fire!" Karen flinched, spinning to see the lamp, dropping the wrench with a clank as sparks flew near her feet. Andrew hauled himself up, drenched, staring from the sparking post to Karen, then back to the ink on his boat. He jumped off, rushing to check the mooring line, but a blaring beep, beep, beep cut through. A fire truck roared into the marina, lights flashing red, sirens screaming. The truck driver yelled, pointing at Karen, "That chick dumped the nets! She caused this!" Karen stumbled back, hands shaking, but couldn't run. A firefighter leapt out, charging the lamp with a hose, accidentally sweeping it over her, blasting her flat on her back again. She screamed, water flooding her face, arms flailing in the chaos. Andrew stood there, soaked, watching her flop in the puddle as sparks and spray mixed, saying nothing. He turned back to the yacht, grabbing a towel to wipe his face, while the fire truck's siren and Karen's shrieks blended into a marina meltdown. The marina trembled under the red glow of the fire truck's lights, cutting through the dark, spotlighting the water and nets strewn across the wooden dock. Karen sprawled flat in a puddle, her white blouse a soaked rag, hair plastered like a mop, flailing in desperation. The fire hose roared, drowning her yells, while the fallen lamppost sparked zzzt nearby. Andrew stood on the Sea Breeze's deck, drenched head to toe, wiping his face with a towel, glancing down at Karen without a word. He turned to check the black ink streak on the hull, then the fizzled firecracker strings sinking underwater, gripping the railing tight, sensing her game wasn't over. Karen clawed her way up, water dripping from her hair, hands slipping on the slick dock. She screamed at the firefighter hosing the lamp, "Turn that damn thing off! I'm not the fire!" But he didn't hear, swinging the hose again, blasting her, rolling across the pier, crashing into the tangled nets under the truck's wheels. She growled, yanking at the ropes, but they snagged tighter, ripping her sleeve, exposing an old scar she quickly hid with a shaky hand. Andrew hopped off the yacht, sidestepping the mess, grabbing the overturned bait bucket to scoop up stray fish. But a shrill beep-beep cut through. A second cop car screeched into the marina, lights flashing red and blue, parking behind the fire truck. Two new cops bolted out, a lanky black guy with shades, radio in hand, and a short woman with red-dyed hair, barking into her walkie. "Who called in the fire? What's happening here?" The redhead scanned the dock, locking on Karen, tangled in nets. Karen tore free, staggering up, pointing at Andrew. "Him! He did all this!" she screeched, voice hoarse from water and rage. "He set the dock on fire, shot off fireworks. Arrest him!" She lurched forward, jabbing at the sea breeze. "That boat's not his. I told you from the start." The Shades cop stepped up, hand raised to stop her. "Chill," he said, voice deep and icy. "We checked. The boat's legit. He's the owner." He turned to Andrew, nodding. "Coleman, right? You see who set those fireworks?" Andrew straightened, dropping the towel, meeting his eyes. "Didn't see anyone light 'em," he said, steady as ever. "But they were tied to my boat, twice." He pointed at the soggy firecracker string, then the ink streak. "This too?" Karen's eyes bulged, ripping her arm from the nets, nearly toppling again. "Liar! He did it to frame me!" She lunged at the redhead cop, pointing wild. "I saw him set those off, I swear! Guys like him don't own yachts! Check again!" But right then, a loud crack erupted. The nets under the truck snapped taut, jerking it sideways, slamming into a fuel drum by the pier. The drum flipped, lid popping off, gasoline gushing across the wood, pooling toward the sparking lamp. A faint "hoof" hit, sparks ignited the fuel, a small flame flaring up, racing toward the nets. Fishermen yelled, "Real fire now!" The firefighter spun the hose, blasting the blaze, but water splashed wide, shoving gas toward Karen. She shrieked, leaping back, but fuel soaked her pant leg, the stench choking her. The redhead cop darted over, yanking Karen from the danger zone, voice sharp. "Stay back! What are you doing near gas?" Karen jerked free, eyes blazing. "I didn't do anything, it's him!" She cut off as a thwack landed. A fat fish from someone's nearby bucket flew loose in the wind, smacking her face, knocking her flat on her back again. Andrew stood on the dock, gripping the railing, watching the fire die under the hose. The Shades cop stepped up, inspecting the soggy firecrackers, then turned to Karen. "You see who set these?" he asked, tone skeptical. Karen crawled up, swiping fish off her face, screaming, "I didn't see squat, But I know it's him. He's pinning it on me. Then a piercing ring blared from her bag. Her phone buzzed loud, tumbling out as she fell. The redhead cop scooped it up, accidentally hitting answer, and a man's voice boomed through the speaker. "Karen, you done yet? I'm parked by the dock. Torch that boat. Don't let that guy keep it." The voice cut off, but the whole pier heard it clear. Karen froze, lunging for the phone, but the redhead held tight, eyes wide. "Who was that?" she demanded, voice like ice. Karen stammered, hands shaking. "No one. Wrong number." But the Shades cop stepped up, pulling cuffs from his belt, voice low. "Hands out. You're under arrest for vandalism and attempted arson." Karen screeched, yanking back, but a crash roared. The truck lurched again, dragging nets, toppling an old paint can, spilling red paint across the dock, pooling at her feet. Paint splashed up, coating her red like blood, freezing her mid-yell, mouth gaping. The redhead cop cuffed her, hauling her from the puddle, while the Shades cop turned to the truck driver. "Who paid you to block this?" The driver pointed at Karen, voice shaky. "Her. She told me to back in. Said to trap that guy." The Shades cop nodded, facing Karen. "Add obstructing traffic and conspiracy." Karen thrashed, screaming, "No! I didn't do anything! He's the thief!" But her cries drowned in the fire truck siren and the cop's radio crackling. Andrew stood on the dock, brushing water from his hair, watching Karen get dragged off in paint and nets. He stayed quiet, turning back to snag a stray net piece, then climbed onto the yacht to check the ropes. A firefighter jogged over, shouting, "You good?" Andrew nodded, voice even. "Yeah, but my boat's got some art now." He pointed at the ink, glancing at Karen, now locked in the squad car, pounding the glass to no avail. But it wasn't over. A faint hiss sounded from the stern. Another firecracker, yellow this time, shot up, bursting bang overhead, lighting the marina gold. Andrew spun, spotting a fresh string tied to the rope, nearly burned out. He ripped it free, tossing it overboard. But a motorcycle screeched into the dock, skidding to a stop by the cop car, rider yelling, "Karen! What the hell? You got me busted!" He gunned it to flee, but the Shades cop leapt, tackling him flat. Karen howled from the car, "No, let me out!" But the squad rolled off, hauling her away amid sirens and lights, leaving the marina soaked in water, paint, and chaos. The marina settled into the dark, the red and blue flashes from the last cop car fading as they hauled Karen and her biker buddy out of sight. The fire truck's wail dwindled, leaving just the steady slap of waves and the night breeze whistling through the pilings. Karen slumped in the squad car, face smeared red with paint, pounding the glass bang, bang, but no one cared. Her biker pal, cuffed in another car, head bowed, pale as a ghost. The dock was a war zone. Water pooling, nets tangled, red paint splattered, and smoldering bits from the burned lampposts still wisping smoke. Andrew stood on the dock, clutching a drenched towel, wiping water and sweat off his face. He glanced at the sea breeze, the black ink streak now streaked with red paint from Karen's spill, looking like some messed-up abstract art. He shook his head, climbing onto the deck, grabbing the tipped bait bucket to scoop up the last stray fish. A firefighter jogged over, flashlight in hand, voice rushed. "Hey, you good? Need us to check the boat?" Andrew nodded slightly, voice even. "I'm fine, thanks. Just got some graffiti now." He pointed at the ink, then turned back to wipe the deck, brushing off the chaos behind him. A low rumble sounded. A tow truck rolled in, headlights slicing through the dark. The delivery driver from earlier hopped out, pointing at the nets jammed under his wheels, yelling at the tow guy, "Get this thing out for me. That chick paid me to block the dock. Now I'm stuck." The tow driver nodded, hooking a cable to the truck, yanking it free with a creak of metal on wood. A nearby fisherman muttered, loud enough for Andrew to catch, "Talk about screwing yourself. Hired a truck to get revenge. Ended up trapped." Andrew turned, watching the nets peel away, then stepped off the yacht, snagging a scrap of rope from the dock. He glanced at the pier entrance where the cops had taken Karen, eyes narrowing like he was piecing it together. But a soft beep-beep chirped from the helm. His phone lit up on the chair. He climbed up, grabbing it, seeing a text from a fishing buddy. "You okay? Heard the dock turned into a battlefield cause of that nut job." Andrew smirked, typing back quick. "Good. Boat's still here. Fish took a hit. He dropped the phone, turning to clean, when a sudden zip hissed from the stern. He bolted over, spotting another firecracker, this time white, blasting up, bursting bang mid-air, lighting the marina like daylight. Again, he grumbled, bending to check, finding a fresh string tied to the rope, burned out but with one left. He ripped it off, tossing it overboard, but a loud whoosh hit a rainwater barrel nearby, toppled, dumping a flood across the dock, rushing toward him. He leapt aside, water splashing his legs, but a screech cut through. A kid on a bike, zoomed in, braking hard by the yacht, nearly crashing into him. The kid, maybe 10, jumped off, clutching a small wrench, face panicked. "Sorry, that lady told me to knock over the barrel, said it had put out a fire." He pointed toward the entrance where Karen had been. Andrew squinted, eyeing the wrench, then the spilled barrel. "She told you?" he asked, voice low. The kid nodded fast. "Yeah, she gave me this," he held up the wrench, "said to teach that boat thief a lesson." Andrew shook his head, dropping the towel, staring at the kid. "Hand it over," he said, soft but firm. The kid passed the wrench quick, then bolted off behind the nets, leaving his bike wobbling on the dock. Andrew gripped the tool, glancing at the ink streak, then stepped to the mooring line, double-checking for more surprises. A firefighter passing by shouted, "All set here? We sticking around?" Andrew waved him off. "Done, thanks." The fire truck and tow rig peeled out, engines fading, letting the marina slip back to quiet. Andrew sank into the helm chair, holding Karen's wrench, staring out where the moon peeked over the waves. A fisherman strolled up, rod in hand, chuckling. "That chick's toast, hired a truck, set off fireworks, now she's locked up. Dug her own grave." Andrew smirked, staying silent, stashing the wrench in a compartment, then scrubbing the ink off the Sea Breeze's hull. But a sharp ding-ding broke the calm. A public speaker by the dock crackled on, a man's voice booming clear. "Police have detained a woman at the marina for vandalism, arson, and hiring accomplices to disrupt. Citizen Karen Foster will be held for investigation." The speaker cut off, leaving the pier still just waves lapping. The fisherman laughed loud, clapping hands. "Slap, slap. Karma's a beaut. Paid to get even, now she's the crook. Priceless." He turned back to his rod, muttering, "Folks like her never quit, but this time she's out of moves." Andrew said nothing, stepping off to grab the fish bucket, dumping leftover water off the deck. He glanced at the entrance where the cops had vanished, then checked the Sea Breeze one last time. A cool breeze swept through, carrying the salty tang, rocking the yacht soft. Andrew settled back in the helm, chin propped on his hand, gazing at the moonlit sea. He didn't grin, didn't speak, just exhaled slow, like he'd dodged a storm not worth his time. The fisherman yelled over, "Hey, fishing tomorrow? Don't let that nut ruin a good day." Andrew turned, lip twitching up. "For sure," he said, voice low but solid. The marina fell calm, waves humming under the moonlight on the Sea Breeze. Karen was gone, her revenge plot sunk, leaving Andrew with his boat, still his, despite it all. He stood, locked the compartment, and stepped off, bucket in hand, heading for the exit, silhouette fading into the night. The final voiceover cut in. Karen crashed in the storm she brewed, while Andrew held his boat steady, no need to prove a thing. Prejudice can scream loud, but the truth stands quiet and strong.